Hope is a way of looking at our lives, and firstly, if we think, I don't know how to move forward, I don't know what to do, but then this book offers a light, maybe a signal of, well, I can do that, I can move forward. And I think it gives people a way of feeling better about themselves. And I said earlier about not being alone. I mean, oftentimes when people go through a lot of challenges, and I know I went through challenges when I was much younger and older, and felt initially that there was nobody that I could share that with, nobody that knew or that was going through the same thing. But to be able to read some of these stories and to feel that, again, that there are other people who've been through something similar or something catastrophic like I have or whatever, and been able to move past it and feel better about themselves and even help other people. Hope is a way of healing. Hope is a way of connecting. Hope is a way of seeing that we're not just in a box and that we can move forward, and that there's a sense of freedom and a sense of connectedness, connection.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Another great author from the Mission Hope book. And we've talking to 18 authors from this amazing new book. And today is no exception. The doctor is here with us today. Dr. Joanne White is with us. And we're going to be talking about her chapter in the book and a little bit about her. And she also has a radio show called Power Your Life. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. Welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, David.
Awesome. So you mentioned early before we had record, you're in the U.S. Can you let everybody listening know where you are in this great world of ours?
I'm in New Jersey.
Awesome. And you are a doctor. That's amazing. So can you tell us a little bit about your background? Would love to get to know a little bit more about you.
Okay. So actually, I have an extensive background because I'm old. I love to make people laugh. Let's see. I actually started out with education and special education and working with children with special needs.
Nice.
I was an adjunct at Temple University in the education and special education department. Also, I was the executive director for a children and youth services program at Bancroft, which was an extensive program, residential, educational, clinical, community program. And then I became the director of the training, evaluation, and research of all of Bancroft facility. And I went out on my own and studied a lot of different modalities because I had to heal some of my own stuff that was going on in my body and my life, and do coaching and counseling and energy work. I'm a energy master teacher, and also hypnotherapy and intuitive and a lot of different things.
Wow, you bring a lot to the table. I love this. Before we hit record as well, you mentioned that you have Power Your Life. It's a radio show. Can you tell us a little bit about that show as well? I'm interested.
Well, it's on Blog Talk Radio, and basically I've had many different guests from all different backgrounds, including Canada.
Nice.
And people who are sharing beautiful stories and aspects about their lives and what they've learned to really help people empower themselves in life and work and business and in relationships.
What does it do for you as the host of that show as you meet these great people? When you're done recording and you're done the conversation, how do you feel as the host? Does it really encourage you?
Well, I love meeting new people, and I love being uplifted, and I love uplifting people. So that's partially what the show is about. And I think it's great to have people present new information that everybody can utilize.
Nice. And just making connections and building community is key for this type of thing. So I love that you're doing that. Any feedback from your listeners that kind of amazed you or encouraged you to hear back from one of your listeners?
Well, people love hearing stories, and many of the people that I've had on have personal stories that help them move forward in their lives to get to where they are. And I think that's encouraging. And that's part of what this book is about too, encouraging people to move forward and feel better about themselves and take chances in their lives and know that we can do it.
So tell me about the power of story. I think everyone listening has a story. They might feel it might not be as extravagant as some other people's stories, but we all have a story in life. What is the importance from your point of view on sharing your story and getting it out there into the world?
Well, I think sharing my story and people sharing stories is about, firstly, it's very healing. I mean, I've had a lot of trauma in my life and different challenges that I've had to go through. And to be able to share it personally helps me feel better about myself and also feel that I'm offering people somewhat of a gift in a way that if I could do this, if I could heal the challenges, if I could get through some of the adversities that I've gone through, you can too. And I think it's that sense of hope and that sense of encouragement that helps other people. And I love to help people. So it makes me feel good to be able to do that for people. I do a lot of coaching and counseling, and I love working with people and hearing their stories and where they are and where they've been and what we can do together to help them move forward. And that's, to me, is just very beautiful to be able to help and transform people's lives. And that's why I'm here.
What are you proud about as far as being a part of this book, Mission Hope? What really excites you about the project?
I think, firstly, we need hope. And again, hope is so important, and it elevates people. It makes people feel, wow, look what he did. Look what she did. Look, if they're able to share that, if they're able to get through whatever it is, whatever it was, I could do that too. And to me, that's incredible to be able to have somebody read a chapter, read the book and feel uplifted and elevated and feel that, there are other people like me. There are other people suffering. There are other people who've had this particular challenge and they got through it, and I can too. And I think that's why hope is so important and the book is so important. There are many amazing authors and beautiful stories that help us feel good about why we're here and who we are and that we're not alone.
So the title of the book is interesting to me, and I've been asking the other authors their take on it. But what is your definition of hope as it relates to this book?
Hope is a way of looking at our lives. And firstly, if we think, I don't know how to move forward, I don't know what to do, but then this book offers a light, maybe a signal of, well, I can do that. I can move forward. And I think it gives people a way of feeling better about themselves. And I said earlier about not being alone. I mean, oftentimes when people go through a lot of challenges, and I know I went through challenges when I was much younger and older and felt initially that there was nobody that I could share that with, nobody that knew or that was going through the same thing. But to be able to read some of these stories and to feel that, again, that there are other people who've been through something similar or something catastrophic like I have or whatever, and been able to move past it and feel better about themselves and even help other people. Hope is a way of healing. Hope is a way of connecting. Hope is a way of seeing that we're not just in a box and that we can move forward and that there's a sense of freedom and a sense of connectiveness, connection.
Nice. So take us back to that initial connection with Shar. Do you recall how the two of you connected and how you became part of this project?
Shar is amazing. I call her my soul sister. And she and I connected on social media, and there's like this instant connection. She's wonderful, and I feel very blessed to be a part of this anthology, and more to come, and just very blessed to know Shar. So Shar, if you're listening,
Mm-hmm.
you're amazing, and thank you. And yeah, you're my soul sister.
Wow. I've heard so many great comments about Shar and who she is and how she's helped each of the authors, and she's just a great person. And I had a chance to interview her on her own for the book. And I can't wait for you to hear her take on this. But
Oh, great.
she's so proud of every author that's been a part of this project and how everyone's connected. And I love the fact that you're going to read this book and see how your chapter fits in with the other 17 and how it all has one consistent theme throughout. It's going to be exciting.
She's very encouraging and very easy to work with, and it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Can you take us behind the scenes for your chapter? I'm hoping that people read or listening to the podcast when they come to read your book and your chapter, that they have a little bit of insight that maybe would add some color to what you've written in your chapter.
So the chapter's called Just When You Think You Couldn't. And basically, I decided to focus on a little girl that really changed my life. Many years ago, I was hired as a camp counselor, and it was for kids with special needs. And that was the only camp, the only actually group that was like that. And I was nervous because I had never worked with kids with special needs before. And it was just before I was going to go into college. And there was one little girl who had bites all over her arms and inside her mouth. And actually nobody liked her. She made strange sounds, and she was a challenge. Okay. And I found very different ways of working with her to help her feel good about herself. And they were more so, I mean, I at that time, I hadn't had the education or the skill, but very intuitively, I would sing with her and massage her cheeks, and she started to blossom. And it made me feel again that I could do something and help somebody. So initially I was going to major in English literature, and I changed my whole way of moving forward and entered into education and special education. And that's what I started to do because of this group and especially this little girl.
What a story. Did it completely change your trajectory and where you're headed in life, right?
Yeah. I didn't realize that firstly, you know, there were more, it was more than just her, yeah. David. There were other children, but there was something, nobody cared about her. She also was an anoretic, so she had problems with urination and whatever. And people just didn't want to be near her. And I thought, how can we do that? How could we, I might cry. How can we just cut somebody off because of their differences or their behavior, which they can't help? And to me, it was so unfair. And I just wanted to be part of that change and help people who needed that.
As you look back to those early days and then compare them to now, are you seeing progress in general? Are people becoming more aware and more willing to help people that they might not have in the past?
Hopefully. It's been better than it was, but we still have challenges. I also opened up a program in Philadelphia. I was hired as the first teacher for children with special needs who were not allowed in school at the time. And many children in the United States were kept out of school. I was already teaching special education, but many kids were told, hey, we can't work with you. So that's it. And how do you think a parent feels or a child feels when they're kicked out or they think there's something wrong with me? I'm not good enough. I can't. I won't. And many people didn't believe in that program. And many people thought it would fail, and many people wanted it to fail, but it didn't, and we opened up more classes. And to me, that's a beautiful story. It's actually in a book that I wrote called More Heaven, because every child is special.
Can we talk a little bit about your book too then? I'd love to share a little bit more about that as well.
Well, that's really, it's fiction, and
Okay.
I made it fiction because I got inside these kids' heads, and who am I to say what goes on in anybody's head, right? But it was important. And basically, the first little girl was sent in a taxi. She had autism, and the reason they sent her in a taxi was because they were afraid that she would do something on the school bus. She was the one that was attacked at one point at her bus stop because she was different. So, in utilizing a lot of different techniques at the time, like movement and play therapy and dance and song, and I got these kids to work and to connect and to communicate. She was the first little girl that was sent to me, and she didn't talk and she didn't communicate, and eventually she did. And eventually she wrote and was loved to write. And so it was an incredible blessing.
It's amazing when people find their calling in life and connect the dots and say, this is where my path is going to take me, and I'm going to be able to help people. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, someone listening to this, maybe they're just coming out of high school, trying to find their path in life, and listening to you and listening to your heart, they're identifying with you. And maybe this might be something they can do in their life, is make a change. And just hearing your words might challenge them to maybe go in a similar path that you took. What kind of things would you say to a student who's contemplating picking up and following your path and helping people the way you do? What kind of encouragement would you have for them?
Well, I think you get so much personal satisfaction by helping someone and seeing someone, especially some of these kids whom nobody believed in, see them soar and smile. And that little girl said to me, Miss Joe, she called me, one day she said, Miss Joe, I love you. And, that was incredible and a blessing. And so oftentimes we don't realize how we can touch somebody's life in such a beautiful, precious way that changes their trajectory and helps them feel good about who they are and feel proud about themselves. And so I just think it's wonderful. I mean, I'm here to help people. That's kind of what I feel like my destiny is, to serve in as many ways as I can. And I think if that's something you feel your heart and your mind and your soul is connected to or are connected to, like, go for it, because the rewards are seeing somebody like that little girl say, I love you, Miss Joe, who never talked before and nobody cared about.
So as far as connecting with you to buy your book and to listen to your show and just, be in your world, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
They can connect with me on social media, but also my website, drjoannewhite.com, Joanne with an E and DR. And love to connect with people. I think connection is the way to help us feel good about ourselves and feel good about each other and be able to shift some of the challenges that are going on in our world.
Do you have a message for the other 17 authors that are also a part of this book?
I'm here with you. I love your stories. I'm reading some of the stories. I love your stories. And I think, again, it takes courage to open up and to share some of the challenges that we faced and to be able to celebrate that to some extent from where we were and where we've come from, and also to share that with other people that could help them in many ways that we may not even realize. And so kudos to all of you authors. Bravo. And Shar, you're amazing. I tell you that all the time because you made this happen. And that's beautiful.
Excellent. Well, Miss Joe, on behalf of those that you have helped, that you've given a voice to, and you've taken the time to sit with, interact with, and come around when others didn't. Thank you for being a great example to all of us. That there's something we can all do, right? And you living the life you've lived and helping as many people as you have to date, with so many more people to help. Just a great example, and I appreciate having time with you today. So thank you for making time for me.
David, thank you for having me, and it's been a pleasure. And you're amazing too. So there you go.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you again for being part of the podcast. And Shar, thank you for connecting us, and thank you for pulling this book together so that I can meet great people in life. So, Dr. Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Take care, David. Bye-bye.
All right. Hey, thanks for being here for the podcast. Mission Hope, Thriving Through Seasons of the Soul, came out March 24th, 2023. 18 amazing authors, all corralled by the amazing Shar Murphy. If you need some inspiration in your life, please go to the show notes, follow the links, go purchase the book, gift it to someone, buy copies and leave it in your waiting rooms of businesses or the dentist office. Just go out and buy the book and support these great authors, many first-time authors, first-time podcast guests. A lot of firsts happening here. Shar Murphy, thank you. Dominic Damaski, publisher as well from Motivation Champs. Thank you so much for bringing together these amazing people, and to have these authors on a podcast here to talk about their chapters is so great. So encouraging you, go out, check out Mission Hope, Thriving Through Seasons of the Soul. Get your copy today. Thanks for being part of the podcast. Catch you on the next one.
Mindshift Power Podcast, the podcast for teenagers and those who work with them. There's a huge problem in America today. There's a very large disconnect between teenagers and the adults who work with them. I'm looking to bridge that gap with real, raw, honest conversation, not held back by the chains of political correctness. You cannot solve a problem you do not understand. Want to understand teenagers today? Listen to this podcast. This podcast is for teens in the U.S. and Canada. To learn more, go to fatimabay.com/podcast or just look for Mindshift Power Podcast on any listening platform. I look forward to you being a faithful listener.